Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with his Monday expert, Mr. Greg Dickerson. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, Michael. How about you?
I'm doing well, man. So I finally had a realization over the weekend. I don't know about you, but I personally will admit to sometimes getting frustrated that fear-based channels get a lot more clicks, a lot more views. And there's just seems to be a feedback loop, right? More fear videos get more clicks, more fear videos. And as you and I both know, that's not what our channels are about. We're just talking about business world. Sometimes it's scary, sometimes it's not. What are we doing? All of those things. So that's bugged me for quite a while, but I finally got comfortable with it on Saturday when I realized that those channels are feeding what I now call spectators. Our channels are feeding players. So what do I mean by that? If you were watching one rental at a time, you were probably interested in real estate investing, do the work, buy box, daily disciplines, cash out. I mean, we are doing it, right? We are writing offers if you're following one rental at a time. If you're watching one of those spectator channels, you're just sitting there on your couch, with your headphones or whatnot, eating popcorn. You're not a player, you're a spectator. So I am now 100% comfortable talking to players and letting those other channels feed the spectators because they're not going to do anything. So what do you think of that? Am I missing anything?
No, well, it goes both ways. So you have the super, fear-based, ultra bearish, whatever segment of the market you're trying to, whether it's, the health, crisis, the economy, whatever it is. And that's kind of news, right? The sensationalism of news. And, you hear the words on the newscast, shocking and startling and, unprecedented, you hear all these things, and that unfortunately is what sells, but so does sensationalism, right? So the other end of the spectrum, super bullish outlooks, super optimistic outlooks and over the top predictions and things like that. So you get both ends of the spectrum that really drive the views. And unfortunately, that's why you see a lot of those sensationalistic titles, either positive or negative, and thumbnails on YouTube. And what happens a lot is people will just look at the thumbnail and then either make a comment or do whatever, and they don't even watch the videos a lot of times on those things. But
that's crazy.
We're a short attention span, attention-based, economy of media nowadays. So you got to get viewers by putting those crazy thumbnails and titles and tags and things like that. And it's really funny because you can tell who watches videos and who don't. You'll see comments in our videos sometimes that just call us bears.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm super optimistic. You can't do the things that you and I do without being optimistic. And, what I am is realistic, and I understand risk. And what we talk about is the upside and the downside. What are the risks? How do you calculate them? Can you withstand the hit when it happens? That's number one. You can't be successful if you don't understand risk, because that's where we go back to the conversation. Anybody can make $1 million, but any fool can make $1 million. It takes a genius to keep it.
There you go.
And we see those stories, easy come, easy go, all the time. So you got to understand the risk first. And as the nature of a real estate developer and as an entrepreneur, the first thing I look at in any venture is what can go wrong. And it's because I've been on the other side of those things where, that's how you learn. You learn by stepping on landmines. You learn
exactly.
By, making mistakes. Yeah. So at some point you have to realize, right, the first time is on me, first time's on you, second time's on me. Right. So, fool me once, not fool me twice kind of thing. So, you start making a log of things that can go wrong. And then that's your due diligence checklist, whether it's a business, an investment, real estate, doesn't matter what it is. You want to know what's the worst thing that can happen. What is that going to cost? And can I handle that if it happens? And, that's how you become successful in business. But then on the other side, you've got to be very optimistic and understand, once you have assessed the risk and understand the risk, I don't care what anybody else says. I can have 500 people tell me my idea stinks and it's wrong. They might be wrong and I might be right. I might be the Steve Jobs. I might be the Jeff Bezos, and I've had people tell me before, oh, you can't do that, or you can't do this in that amount of time. And I prove them wrong every time, because you can do whatever you make your mind up to do. If you've done your homework, you've educated yourself, you've looked at realistically what can go wrong, what's the worst that can happen, and then you move forward based on that. So, that's not being bearish, that's being prudent.
Yeah. When I think about this player and spectator more and more, I'm still getting comfortable with it because it just hit me Saturday evening. Most people are spectators, right? That's why these channels are bigger, right? There's just a lot more spectators right? Being a player is risky because you can lose money. You're making decisions. You're deciding on your own. Being a spectator, there's a lot of spectators out there that are watching other channels, watching people look at stocks and candles and all these things. And they're like making financial decisions based on words that somebody owns that they've never met. I'm like, are you serious? Is that financial advice? Is that what we're doing now? And that works great when the market runs, but it doesn't work long term. And then they'll blame the other person, right? Oh, you said no, do the work yourself, right? Trust yourself, all of that stuff. So again, being a player doesn't mean you win. Being a player means you might lose. But I think being a spectator means you always lose eventually, because you're just floating through. So again, I think there's something to this spectator versus player.
Well, it's easy to be a spectator because you don't have to do anything. You
Exactly.
don't have to risk anything. You don't have to run the chance of failing.
You don't have to work.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. So, anybody can be a spectator. Anybody can be a critic. And, there's all kinds of stories and analogies about that. And, the people that actually enter the field and, engage in battle and, bleed and sweat and things like that. And, at the end of the day, there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be critics. There's always going to be spectators. And, for some people, that's just how they're wired. And, that's great. The key is for the players is you don't listen to that.
Yeah.
You listen to intelligent criticism and, constructive criticism, and you take that into account. But just, the general people that are just out there making stupid comments or remarks or whatever, you can't fight with stupid. So you just ignore it. And
I love it. You can't fight with stupid. I love that. And again, I just thought about this as we were talking. If I were to look at kind of the population, I'll just pick 100 people at random. My guess is 80% of those, maybe even 85 will be spectators. Because again, being a player is hard. It's risky. It's time consuming. You got to make choices. Lots of naysayers, your friends, right? Your network pulls you back. Everybody wants to be a spectator, right? Pull you back. And when you get out of your seat to go play, they make fun of you and you're changing and you're different and all of that stuff. So I don't know, 85-15 feel about right? Or you think it's...
There's never been 1 point scored from the stands. Not one.
No, yeah, exactly. I love that. Get on the field and play. Whatever your choice is, being an entrepreneur. Go back and watch Greg's first video, Truck in a Toolbox. Yeah, Truck in a Toolbox.
Hey, look, you ain't scoring any points from the stand, number one, okay? The game may be won on the practice field, but the points are scored on the game field.
Yeah, exactly. Get in the game, right? And that's actually a great thing. One of the things in my private Facebook group, a brand new member wrote just a very simple phrase. This might not sound like a big deal, but I just wrote my first offer. I'm like, yay, celebrate, 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 right? You're on the field. And then just this morning, actually, before we started our video, follow up, or offer accepted. I'm like, yes.
So spectators can come in a couple of forms or fashions. There's some that just can't do, right? So they're spectators, and that's fine, and then you have others that won't do, and they just want to criticize others that do because they're making up for their own inadequacies. And then you have the ones that are just frozen in their tracks because there's so much information out there, like making that offer. Right. They're just so afraid because, well, this guy does this and this one does that. And it's how do I, am I buying the right property? Is it the right? Just make the offer, and go from there. And if the deal's meant to be, it'll be. If you've done your homework, educated yourself, your market, you understand what you should be paying, and you have multiple exit strategies, and you've understood the downside, what can go wrong. You've calculated that, write the offer.
Absolutely. Because in real estate, it's not like a stock or a crypto, which you own the moment you've done it. With real estate, you have these things called inspections. And, if something comes up sideways that you didn't have in your make ready cost, or it hurts your yield, which is what I teach my students, back out, right? You have the time. So this is amazing stuff. Again, folks, I think in the game of money, the game of money is played 24/7, 365. It is played by everyone. And if you don't know, you're a spectator. If you know, you're a player. Do the work, focus, discipline, all that good stuff. Greg, how can people find you?
Yeah, gregdickerson.com. That's where all my info is. YouTube podcast. Go check it out.
Yeah, do yourself a favor. Greg covers a crazy amount of topics that I have no experience in. He is someone I go to for entrepreneurship, cryptos, and things of that nature. So do yourself a favor, subscribe. Thanks, buddy.